So good evening. This is we are VI Wastewater Alternatives and Innovations, and I said this is our I think 13th town hall that we're doing, and really mahalo you all for joining us for this Puna town hall tonight. And we're really just seeking solutions and answering questions about an issue that has plagued the state for decades, cesspools, and then most importantly the water quality that they affect.
This is the Aloha Spirit from Chapter 5 of the Hawaiʻi Revised Statutes. It states, it was the working philosophy. Aloha Spirit is the coordination of the mind and heart within each person. It was the working philosophy of Native Hawaiians and was presented as a gift to the people of Hawaii. Aloha means mutual regard and affection and extends warmth and caring with no obligation in return. So with that, we'll keep that in mind, and we'd like to do, actually, go ahead, Stuart. We were
Yeah.
around a bit. Go ahead.
Yes, we have a diverse and talented team here, and we're really lucky to have water quality specialists like Nick and Christina. We have workforce development headed up by Gabby and Courtney with Aaliyah and Graham, who have been doing just an amazing job, and they'll tell you more about that as we go, because this is one of the most exciting parts of it. We have an exciting chance to do workforce development in the state around this issue, which helps protect water quality. And so I just wanted to give you an overview of our staff here. And we're lucky to have Representative Jeanné Kapela joining us tonight, along with Alex Roy, who's a senior coastal planner for the County of Hawaii. And then for our expert Q&A panel, we have Stephen Colbert, who's really been just a stalwart supporter and an amazing water quality specialist for a number of our town halls. And we also have Hannah Puentes joining us from Hawaii Viola. And then Bob Whittier, who's done some of the most important research on this topic in the state, working for the Department of Health. And before we kind of go into our mission real quickly, Representative Kapela is going to be available at the Q&A at the end. But I just wanted to offer to make sure that Representative Kapela, if you wanted to say a few words at the beginning about this issue, just to offer that opportunity.
Thank you so much, Stuart, and thank you so much to the VI team for having me and coordinating this amazing town hall. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. My name is Jeanné Kapela. I represent House District 5. It goes from where I live in South Kona all the way to Kea'au, just on the Mauka side of the highway to about Shipman Park. So really the entire southern half of Hawaii Island. This is definitely one of the top issues, I think, within the district. It's also a top issue that's happening across our state. So I'm very grateful to the VI team for putting this town hall together for our Puna community. I had a caucus meeting today with the majority, and one of the things that came up was this specific issue in talking about our policy priorities for this coming legislative session. So this conversation is very pertinent to that. It was one of the top priorities that came out of today's meeting. So I think it's really important for everyone to, sorry, this is Ua, by the way. But she, one of the things that's really important is going to be making sure that all of you can understand, I guess, how the conversion is going to happen. And then for us on the state side, trying to provide a lot more funding to ensure that it's a much smoother transition for many of our families that can't afford a full $50,000 unit to transition, and making sure that you're not shouldered with that burden. So we are at the state level trying to find pathways to make that much more accessible and affordable. So thank you again to VI, and thanks for everyone for joining us.
Thank you. And your child is the reason why we're doing this for the Keiki of Hawaii. So thank you for joining us. So just as a brief overview, VI was started as a environmental nonprofit that was started in 2019. Our mission is to protect water quality by providing affordable, eco-friendly solutions to wastewater management. And our vision is to really, as Rep. Kapela said, to help Hawaii homeowners and the communities to upgrade cesspools, which don't offer any treatment, to better systems to improve the water quality for all of Hawaii. And our values are kind of, we have 5 pillars that we are like this, the kind of the major programs and content that we provide are innovative technology. And we've worked with, the Gates Foundation and many international, regional, and local groups to provide that, to get them this technology into pilot projects. So it's not just theoretical, that we're actually making progress and showing that these things can work more efficiently and more affordably. And then we do policy and advocacy work, like Representative Kapela was saying, at the state and in the county councils, to make sure that we are moving forward the best way, trying to find financial resources for homeowners, for communities, for decentralized systems. And then we do things like this town hall to do outreach and education to remind people of why this is so important and why we need to take care of this issue. And for our agenda tonight, we have, we're going to go over the cesspool issue and its impacts. And we're going to talk about the cesspool conversion priority areas that were established during the cesspool conversion working group that we were part of for 4 years. And then talk about wastewater treatment alternatives and some of those financial resources that are available. And our Work for Water program, and we have really exciting news to share about that. And then our panelist Q&A. So again, just a reminder, if you have questions along the way, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them as we go. And if not, we'll make sure our very talented panel answers them. Mahalo. So I'll turn it over to you, Gabby.
Mahalo, Stuart. Before we begin, we'd like to take a brief poll to better help us understand your needs. If you could please select the answer that best represents you. There will be some multiple choice questions where we're going to ask you to rank on how much you agree or strongly agree or disagree with each statement. So I will launch the poll right now. We would like to start by answering the question of why now? Why is it important to convert your cesspool now? First, we'll play a short video that goes into detail about how cesspools work and the impact that they have on the environment and on our public health. Please give us a thumbs up when you can hear the audio.
Living on an island means our Aina, the land, deserves special care and respect. Whether your home has a cesspool or not, the presence of cesspools in our communities affects us all. Our ocean, river, and stream waters may appear clear and pristine, but untreated wastewater contamination can still be present. The risks that cesspools pose to both human and environmental health have been documented by Hawaii's government, the scientific community, and citizen volunteers. Gastrointestinal illnesses and skin infections have been linked to exposure of sewage pollution in ocean and fresh water. It's not just tourism and recreation at stake. Cesspools can pollute our drinking water supply. We rely on groundwater wells for more than 90% of the fresh water we consume on the islands. We are beginning to see that sources of the foods we love, like our native limu and the health of many reef ecosystems, are imperiled by the human waste carried to coasts in submarine groundwater discharge. Pollution of this discharge pathway threatens our food security, Hawaiian cultural practices, and our island way of life. The threat of sewage contamination will increase as more cesspools are exposed to rising water tables, sea levels, extreme weather events, and changing coastlines over the coming decades. But it's not just cesspools located along the shoreline that impact human and environmental health. Many factors, including soil characteristics, distance to wells, cesspool density, and precipitation, play a role in transporting pollution to surface and groundwater, eventually ending up in the ocean. Cesspool pollution affects everyone, and their conversion to better forms of wastewater treatment is a community priority. Conversion will reduce the amount of pollution impacting nature and humans. It also provides other benefits like improving property values and community resilience. For more information on cesspools in your neighborhood, visit hawaiicesspooltool.org. This video was produced by the Hawaii Department of Health, University of Hawaii Sea Grant College Program, and the Water Resources Research Center at the University of Hawaii.
Wastewater can negatively impact human health by transmitting waterborne pathogens, including pathogenic bacteria, viruses, and parasites. These microorganisms can cause diseases when individuals ingest or come into contact with contaminated water. Swimmers, surfers, fishers, and paddlers all report illnesses and infections from swimming in polluted waters from across the islands. Wastewater pollution can have detrimental environmental impacts, particularly on coral reefs. Sewage pollution introduces pathogens to coral reefs, increasing the risk of coral disease. Pathogens like bacteria, viruses, and parasites can infect corals, leading to tissue damage and reduced fitness and death. Wastewater contributes to the increase of excess nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus in freshwater and saltwater bodies. Excess nutrient pollution in water creates harmful algal blooms, kills coral reefs, and strips oxygen from the water due to excessive nutrient input of nitrogen. Courtney, will you go back one slide for me, please? Kalamai, I've skipped over this slide. We have a huge cesspool problem here in Hawaii. Each day, over 83,000 cesspools release about 52 million gallons of untreated sewage into our Aina. This is a huge issue. Act 120 banned the construction of new cesspools in Hawaii, and Act 125 mandates the upgrade of all cesspools by 2050 to on-site wastewater treatment disposal systems, decentralized cluster systems, or connection to new sewer systems. Okay, mahalo, Courtney. Please now take me back. Okay, so a little bit more about wastewater pollution. Our very own Stuart Coleman wrote a fantastic article that you see here. This article shares some research from a Nature Scientific Journal publication that was a over 10-year study that concluded that increasing land-based sources of pollution and decreasing herbivore fish populations are two of the biggest stressors on the survival of Hawaii's coral reefs. And we'll learn more about that from our water quality experts in this presentation. One way that you can protect yourself from waterborne illnesses and infection is to stay informed and aware of water quality advisories issued by the Department of Health Clean Water Branch. You can do that by subscribing to their email water quality alert list. Here, we will actually send out all of these slides in a follow-up email that you used. It'll go to the email address you used to register for this town hall. When you have access to those slides, you'll notice that all of these links are clickable and you'll be able to actually go back and look at these resources and materials. So here you can actually mahalo, Courtney, you can click on that link and there you can sign up for these alerts. So here you see this was a alert from the Hilo wastewater treatment plant advisory that was on June 21st, 2024. This is an example of one you might see. And there's one more that we wanted to bring to your attention. This is actually on November 14th. This was routine monitoring, revealed that enterococci levels were exceeding what the DOH safety threshold is. And so here this is exactly what you'll see when you click on the alert. You'll get a map of the location, a description and detail of what the alert is about, and you'll also get an alert when this advisory is no longer active. Okay, so how to avoid waterborne illnesses. We recommend do not go swimming with open cuts or scrapes. Don't go swimming in brown water after it rains. Check water quality reporting websites for advisories and avoid swimming in ocean water. Swallowing ocean water. Of course, swim in the ocean water, but avoid swallowing it. Okay, mahalo, I'm gonna pass it over to Aaliyah.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Aaliyah. I'm also with the VI team. Within this section, I'm going to cover the priority areas of cesspools on Hawaii Island and in the Puna District. So This slide, we're going to take a look at Hawaiʻi Island as a whole, so you can get an idea of the scale of this issue. Within this map, you can see that the Department of Health estimates that there are over 48,000 cesspools located throughout Hawaiʻi Island. Resulting from Act 125, the Department of Health was required to evaluate residential cesspools in the state and develop a report to the legislature that includes a prioritization method for cesspool upgrades. Priority areas, as seen here in the color distinctions, were determined through a data-driven process. 15 statewide data layers relevant to cesspool hazards were considered when designating these zones. Experts weighed these risk factors according to their significance to environmental and human health impacts. The zones are classified into 3 levels, indicating the priority for conversion. Priority level 1, the yellow dots on the screen, these cesspools have the these are the red dots. I'm so sorry. Priority level 1 are the red dots, and these cesspools have the greatest potential to impact human health and the environment and are directly adjacent to sensitive natural resources like coral reefs or drinking water aquifers. Priority level 2, these are the orange dots. I think on Hawaiʻi Island, that's only in Hilo are priority level 2 cesspools. And these cesspools still pose a significant hazard to human health and the environment, and they may be close to sensitive natural resources like streams or drinking water aquifers. And priority level 3, this is majority of the cesspools in the Puna District. They still have an impact on human health and the environment, but may be further away from sensitive natural resources or areas that may directly impact human health. Also, a quick reminder, these slides will be sent out, so you can click on these links and dig deeper in your own time. In the next slide, we will zoom into Puna, so you can get an idea of what the situation is like in your own backyard. In the Puna District, you can see there are over 14,000 recorded priority 3 cesspools. Hawaiʻi Paradise Park and other Puna neighborhoods have some of the highest density of cesspools in the state. And then I'm going to put in the chat the link to the mapping tool so that you can look in and maybe zoom into your house and your actual neighborhood so you can get a good look on your own time. All right, next slide. As we continue to work towards improving water quality in our communities, it's essential that we stay connected with our elected representatives. They need to hear from us, and we need to hold them accountable for taking action. On this slide, you'll find the contact information for your local representatives. We encourage you to reach out to them, share your concern, personal experiences, and express your support for initiatives that protect our water resources. As by working together and staying engaged, we can ensure that our representatives prioritize the health of our watersheds and the well-being of our communities. All right, I will now pass it to our water quality specialist, Nick Story, to share an important water quality tool.
Thank you. Nice to meet all of you guys. So I'm just going to be briefly jumping in to share a tool that we have launched earlier this year. And it's called a water quality story map. And it's a pretty exciting tool because basically what we did is we took the time to find as much of the scientific literature that we could of water quality studies that were specifically focused on sewage pollution across the state. And then we created an interactive map that will take you to certain hotspots. For example, on Big Island, it goes to Hilo and Kona, and it'll give you a little overview of what are some of the water quality issues in that region. And then as well, you can click on like the little red dots when the map zooms in, and that will give you a brief summary of what the publication, what the peer-reviewed publication found, what methods they used, and then it'll actually provide you with a link to go to the paper itself. And this isn't just limited to Big Island, it goes across the entire state. So if you're visiting your ohana in Oahu and you're curious about the water quality in, let's say, Waianae, you can just zoom on over and look at previous publications from there. And I will be putting a link for it in the chat in just a second. But other than that, that's actually all I really have to share with you guys. And I will be now passing it on to Bob Whittier, who is a local water quality expert with the Department of Health Safe Water Drinking Branch. And he's going to be going to more detail from a study he did looking at water quality in Puna.
Well, thank you, Nick. Yeah, I'm Bob Whittier. I work for the Hawaii Department of Health Safe Drinking Water Branch. And as part of that, we are concerned about the drinking water quality. And one project we did looked at water quality in Hawaiian Paradise Park. And so here are the findings. Next slide. Okay. The study area was Hawaiian Paradise Park, and it was established just before statehood. It's actually agricultural lots, and they have no centralized water distribution or wastewater collection system. So last time I checked, there are approximately 5,400 residential lots. So consequently, that means there are about 5,400 on-site sewage disposal systems, which are primarily cesspools. And I checked recently, and there are more than 500 domestic wells. So that means within a parcel, you're disposing of the wastewater on the same parcel where you are getting your drinking water. So this wastewater contains numerous contaminants, including nutrients, which include nitrogen and phosphorus. Nitrogen is a drinking water contaminant, but both of them are also have environmental impact along our nearshore waters. Also, we have pharmaceutical and personal care products, which can come with health and ecological risk and disease-causing pathogens. Okay, next slide. Okay. The hydrology is an important consideration when looking at the impact of cesspools and septic systems to human health and the environment. So the east side of the Big Island has very high rates of groundwater recharge, as shown by the blue colors on that USGS
Not in
recharge
our
map.
area, though. If you look on this map, we don't have it on ours.
That's, I would expect that.
Is there? Oh, wow. I'm sorry. Okay. So Hawaiian Paradise Park, hydrology. The hydrology plays an important part in moving contaminants from the point of discharge to captured by drinking water wells or to the coast. So the east side of the Big Island has very large amounts of recharge, as shown by the blue there on the USGS recharge map. There's approximately 160 million gallons per day of groundwater that flows beneath Hawaiian Paradise Park, going out to the ocean. It's also located on geologically recent lava flows of Kilauea, and this provides for rapid infiltration of precipitation and the discharged wastewater. In fact, the study in Hawaiian Paradise Park had shown that the groundwater response time after heavy rainfall was in the range of 8 to 11 hours. So that allows very little time for natural remediation of wastewater contaminants. Okay, next slide. So let's look at the nutrients, primarily nitrates, since it has a health limit of 10 milligrams per liter, but also results in nutrient load to the coast, which will increase algae overgrowth over our corals. So this map shows three things. First, the background color is the model generated nitrate, which would result from wastewater discharge. So the darkest green would be basically baseline, what we'd have under natural conditions. We show Hawaiian Paradise Park there circled in violet, and the results from sampling wells, domestic wells in 2014, and actually you sampled a couple of them just a couple of months ago. And the results really are not very disturbing for the amount of nitrate in the groundwater. They range from about 0.2 to 0.8 milligrams per liter, very low, so not a drinking water risk. This is due to that very large amount of recharge that flows through the area and dilutes the discharged wastewater. So the actual concentrations are about equal to that of the Hawaii Department of Water Supply Kanapoka well there at the south end of the map. And the other interesting thing is that the color scheme for these well symbols, which represent the nitrate concentration, and that background color scheme, which represents the modeled nitrate, use the same color scheme, and they show that the model does a fairly good job of predicting the impact of wastewater in this area. So the health risk from nitrate and also pharmaceuticals really is low just because of the dilution. However, it must be noted that there is still a large mass of nitrogen that gets discharged to the coast. And although the concentration is low, that mass is still high. And at least as far as I know, we have not really looked at the coastal impact where the concentrations are low, but the mass is high. That's a data gap for further evaluation. Okay, next slide. But let's look at the other thing, the pathogens. We look at the pathogen health risk from a drinking water perspective by culturing what we call fecal indicator bacteria. These bacteria are not in themselves pathogenic, but they are associated with wastewater. So we collected 69 samples from 32 wells from 2010, 2011, and 2014, and analyzed them for the presence of wastewater indicator bacteria. 29 samples were positive for total coliform. That represents about 50% of the wells. And this is more general bacteria, not as specific to wastewater, but if we look at E. coli, 25% of the wells tested positive for E. coli. And that's, from a health perspective, that is disturbing. The detection rate increased on a couple of factors. As the map shows, the detection rate increases as we get closer to the coast. The freshwater land thins, and you're pulling a lot more water from the entire thickness of the freshwater aquifer. The other thing is after heavy rains. During our 2014 study, Hurricane Iselle hit the Big Island, and some wells that had tested negative for fecal indicator bacteria before then tested positive. So DOH recommends, if you have a domestic well, that you disinfect the well water before using it. So how do we do that? Next slide. So a couple of methods, and there's a link below that gives a more detailed description of water treatment and disinfection. One is ultraviolet disinfection systems. And the reason I put that on top is because the Diamond Drilling, who drills most of the wells in the area, actually provides a UV package with their well drilling. Okay, the package filters water to remove turbidity to make the UV disinfection more effective. Then it passes the water through a UV light source that kills pathogens. As I mentioned, that is provided with most Hawaiian Paradise Park well installations. Another one which requires a little bit more work is chlorine disinfection. On a municipal scale, chlorine disinfection is a preferred method, but it can be done at the residential level. It adds chlorine disinfectant into the water line prior to the pressure tank. It uses hazardous chemicals, so caution is advised there. is a little bit more maintenance intensive than UV, and you have to properly dose the water as it moves through the system. You can add activated charcoal at the outlet of the pressure tank, which will then remove the chlorine taste, which many people find which many people don't like. And so that brings me to the end of my presentation. I'll pass it back to Y.
Mahalo. We will actually send it over to, let's see.
All right, hi there. That was awesome, Bob. Thanks so much for that. And I'm Steve Colbert. I'm a professor here at the University of Hawaii at Hilo in the Marine Science Department. And me and my colleague Tracy Wigner, along with the support of a lot of students, graduate students, undergraduate students, we study wastewater issues and kind of how sewage from cesspools is impacting our coastal ocean. So go on, next slide. I'm mostly going to talk about Hilo, where we've been doing a lot of work over the last decade and plus. Most of what I'm going to be presenting here is about Hilo. So what's being shown here is in the figure is this Enterococcus, which is the fecal indicator bacteria that the Department of Health uses as one of their indicators of if there's sewage present in the water. And the cutoff that they use is a value of 130. So anything that's colored yellow or warmer colors than that are concentrations where there's the potential that sewage is present in our water. So you can see that there's quite a few places along the Keaukaha shoreline. What's being shown here is Hilo Bay extending out the Keaukaha shoreline. Several places where Enterococcus concentrations are very high. And the other thing you'll notice is that it can be very spotty, with some springs being low, being close to groundwater springs that are very high. Hilo is it is the largest unsewered city in the nation. And so we have lots of cesspools and septic tanks within our community. And that's where the source of this sewage is coming in. Within the Hilo Bay breakwater, the area is listed as an impaired waterway because of these high fecal indicator bacteria levels. So let's go on, next slide. We've also done work where we've gone through and we've collected water samples. So Enterococcus is something that could be coming from the environment as well. For example, dog waste and cattle waste in the watershed, pig waste can actually bring in Enterococcus and be affecting it in the shoreline. So we wanted to find other ways of, well, how do we know that this is really human pollution that's doing this, that's causing this? And so what's being shown here is the occurrence of human Bacteroides present in our shoreline samples. And so what you can see here is that more than half of our samples that we collected inside Hilo Bay ended up having the presence of this human Bacteroides. So using DNA methods to specifically find bacteria that are coming from our human gut. So we know that this source of sewage here is coming from human sewage. Next slide, please. Now, some of the work that I've been working on, and earlier you saw Nick giving us the presentation about research papers in our area of the work that have been done. Well, this work just got approval to be published, so we're really excited about that. We just heard about that yesterday. So Nick will have another publication for your storyboard soon. What this figure is showing, you can see the picture there of green water. This is work that I do where I put dye into people's cesspools that live near the shoreline, and then we track and see, do we see the dye at the shoreline? Can we make the connection directly from cesspool to shoreline springs? And sure enough, we did 4 of these tests in Keaukaha, and at all of them, we were able to find dye at the shoreline. And the water moved really quickly, more than 130 to 200 meters a day. So it's moving a football field plus the end zones, or 2 football fields a day. So if you look back from the shoreline and you see there's a house within a football field of where you're at, if it's not on the main street, which is sewered, anything back behind that, those cesspools are draining to the shoreline, sometimes extremely quickly. That's what's being shown in the green dots here. Within about 20 hours at one home, within about 20 hours, we ended up seeing dye at the shoreline. And it's just not getting diluted. It's in very high concentrations. Once it's reaching the shoreline at these springs, the sewage is, and it's just not good water for going in. What we would like to see is a place where we can go to the beach and be cleansed by the ocean water. But earlier we heard about not going to the beach when you have cuts, not going to the beach when you have scrapes. It doesn't have to be like that. And by removing the sewage from the groundwater, we can help to improve our water quality. Next slide, please. So how bad is it in Hilo compared to other places around Hawaii Island? I was on a project working with Bob Whittier and others where we went all around Hawaii Island and studied, we have 10 stations, 10 strips of shoreline all around Hawaii Island to find out which ones were most impacted by sewage. And the inside Hilo Bay, inside the breakwater, was the 3rd highest ranking for our island. And then statewide, when that value is compared statewide, it ended up being the 4th highest ranked sewage pollution in the state. It's things like this that make us shocked that we're only a priority 2 for getting this improved water quality. And seeing the high density of cesspools throughout Puna, it's shocking that they're only priority 3. So we would like to see these priority levels be something that are able to be altered with additional information, like the data that we've been able to provide. Next slide, please. And then just to wrap up here, so what we do know is that sewage is present along the Hilo shoreline. Our fecal indicator bacteria are exceeding the Department of Health standards. That 130 value, that the values that we were presenting before, is the rate at which people will get gastroenteritis, stomach digestive problems from being in contact with the water. So at about 3.5% of people at that cutoff, and we're seeing values much higher than that. The dye tracer tests that we've done have documented this very fast travel time to the shoreline of dye. The groundwater flow rates are much faster in that nearshore area, allowing for sewage to reach the shoreline very quickly without any time for it to be naturally processed. And what we'd like to see is higher priority levels, meaning giving us more resources to get our cesspools converted throughout Hilo and the Puna area. So mahalo for your time, and I think that was my last slide.
Thank you so much for the excellent research, Steve.
Mahalo. In this next section, we'll review some of the wastewater treatment alternatives to cesspools. So we have different conversion options, centralized versus decentralized systems. So wastewater treatment falls into 2 main categories that you see here. On the left, you see centralized systems, which is like the typical wastewater sewer plants that you're most familiar with, and then decentralized systems, those OSDS, those on-site treatment and disposal systems. So centralized systems collect waste and transport it to a central plant for treatment. In municipal areas in Hawaii, homes and businesses are connected to a county or privately owned system that transports the wastewater to a centralized plant, like the Hilo wastewater treatment plant. Decentralized systems treat human waste on-site of location where it's generated and near the source of the waste rather than in a centralized sewer system. So these decentralized systems include community cluster systems that are similar to the centralized sewer systems, but on a smaller scale. They typically have about smaller collection system service area, like about 10 to 200 homes. Decentralized on-site individual wastewater treatment systems serve individual properties with the source, collection, treatment, and disposal of wastewater on site of the property. Within rural areas of Hawaii, the cost to dig and construct long sewer systems for remote locations to centralized treatment facilities are substantial. Since many of the cesspools located in rural areas across Hawaii without centralized sewer systems to connect to, conversion to decentralized systems will be more likely, and it might be the most cost-effective option for some homeowners. The technology that we'll discuss in these next slides will focus on decentralized alternatives for homeowners with individual homes and communities that might not be able to connect to sewer. So first we'll talk about decentralized community cluster systems. Those are decentralized on-site individual wastewater systems might be a good option for rural areas of Hawaii where it's too expensive to connect to remote locations or to a centralized system. These cluster systems, these community systems, collect sewage from multiple homes, about 10 to 200, in a neighborhood or a small community that could then be transported to a small-scale treatment facility at a nearby location. These decentralized cluster systems provide an opportunity to convert multiple cesspools from a community at one time, which creates an opportunity to save conversion costs, installation costs, and if we're all connecting to one system, that creates an opportunity to take some of the operation and maintenance cost and management off of the homeowner's burden and have it be a shared community cost. So this really helps reduce the cost and burden on individual homeowners because they do require this joint ownership and shared funding for O&M, as well as conversion and installation from multiple cesspools at once. So what you see on this slide, one example of this would be a Prelos model. This is from Arenco. It's called a Prelos stands for pressurized liquid only sewer system. This type of central system, or decentralized, cluster system combines the advantages of a centralized sewer system with on-site individual treatment. So the wastewater is directed to this tank for the purpose of retaining this into a tank for the purpose of retaining sludge, while the liquid is then transferred to a treatment facility. So this system does require small diameter piping, but that's shallow, easy piping to install, and it's a lot cheaper to manufacture and install than conventional sewer pipes. Next, we'll talk about cesspools and septic tanks. So when you're comparing decentralized on-site systems, it's important to understand the difference between cesspools and septic tanks. Both of these systems are located on site of where the sewage and waste is generated. So everything that goes down the drain, every drop from your shower, every flush of the toilet flows through the inlet pipes that you see here and out into these on-site systems. In terms of treatment, cesspools are pretty much as basic as it gets. They're typically just a hole in the ground that's lined with either stone or cement and has holes in it that leaches out this raw, untreated sewage. The cesspool does not have the ability to filter the waste, and so it eventually will contaminate the surrounding soil. That's why cesspools are generally considered outdated and why Hawaii is looking to convert these systems. In contrast, a septic tank is a watertight container that does hold the wastewater and allows it to separate into layers like you see here. The solids sink to the bottom and the liquids rise to the top. The liquid layer then flows out of the tank and into a drain field for further treatment in the soil. Now, septic tanks are designed to treat wastewater and reduce the risk of pollution, but they can also be a source of environmental contamination if they're not properly maintained or they fail or are located on a site with limiting factors. So for example, if your septic tank is in close proximity to a shoreline or an unreliable soil type, it may not actually be providing the amount of treatment required that it typically would, let's say, like on the mainland. And so that's why we encourage, if you are looking at septic systems, having some sort of additional advanced treatment coupled with your septic tank. So it's not just reliant on a septic tank. So the next slide, on this diagram, you see here is an illustrated example of a typical decentralized on-site septic tank treatment train serving a single residence that's made up of collection network, a septic tank, and soil treatment area. So what you see here is first the wastewater is collected at the source, this house, and conveyed into an initial treatment system like a septic tank that removes most of the solid and provides minimal treatment. Then that wastewater flows to a final treatment and disposal stage. So this is where we might include, like you heard Bob Whittier sharing, that's where maybe UV could be incorporated or other types of advanced treatment for a final treatment before it is then dispersed out into some sort of drain field. The drain field uses pipes with perforations that release the wastewater into the surrounding soil, and the soil then provides additional treatment in the ground. This plays an important role in treating, filtering, and disposing of wastewater, as the soil allows bacteria and pathogens to decay, and it converts the nitrogen into less harmful forms. Unfortunately, Hawaii's unique geology and soil types like porous lava rock limits the ability to provide final treatment needed after leaving a septic tank. So if the soil type cannot be dependently treated and the pathogens and the nutrients can't be treated by the soil, they will leach out and pollute our INA and our water resources, like you just heard. So in these cases, this is when we really do strongly encourage homeowners to consider advanced treatment alternatives. Some of these advanced treatment alternatives, the goal would be to provide additional treatment to remove nitrogen, bacteria, pathogens, and chemicals. Now we can just review a couple of these. So here's an example of some passive sand filters. So one example of these advanced treatment would be including some sort of sand filter that's placed in the drain field after the septic tank, and that will again increase that treatment that's supposed to be happening within the soil. So this kind of supplements the soil treatment here. So the sand filters take the burden of the treatment off of the native soil, and they're ideal for sites that actually have soil types that can't dependably treat the pathogens and nutrients in the final treatment and disposal stage. So these systems provide advanced treatment and disposal in the same footprint. So it's really ideal for small lots or areas that don't have a lot of land for a larger drain field. One of the biggest advantages of these systems is that they're also passive systems. So they don't require any electricity or any pumps to function. Here on the left, you see an example of one of these sand filters. This is a geotextile sand filter offered by Elgin, and it's a fabric material called a geotextile that's folded up on top of itself, and those folds create more surface area, so as the water percolates through it, it creates a suitable conditions for the microbes to flourish and provides further treatment. You'll also see on the right an aerofin. This is another type of sand filter. This is provided by Infiltrator. It also creates a biological ecosystem that can digest the organic matter in the wastewater on a continual basis. So both of these systems occupy minimal space and can be an effective solution for compact lots and sites with small footprint constraints. We also have some nature-based solutions. Nature-based solutions are designed to mimic treatment processes that naturally occur in nature to effectively treat wastewater systems. They can recreate the treatment process that occurs in natural wetlands, utilizing the physical, chemical, and biological processes for pollutant removal. They're ideal for locations that are near sensitive water bodies, those priority 1 areas as well. Here you see a bioreactor garden on the left. This is an advanced version of what a constructed wetland might be like. This is Ridge to Reefs Bioreactor Garden, and it's a passive system that treats wastewater after the septic tank, and it through this natural nutrient removal process with plants and soils and microbial activity. They actually use plants as a filter, and a bioreactor includes specialized media like basalt and biochar to enhance treatment. The bioreactor garden actually combines the functions of a constructed wetland, filtering media, and denitrifying bioreactor into one single comprehensive treatment and disposal system. BI is working with Ridge to Reefs on technical assistance projects to design wastewater solutions for communities on Maui, Kauai, and Keaukaha, Hawaii Island. Leapfrog is the other system you see here. That's currently only treats gray water, but they're working on a kitchen black water cleaning system that should be coming soon. The system has a small footprint and the water can be reused in toilet flushing and irrigation. To convert a whole home, the system should be paired with some sort of incineration toilet, which we will cover next. So on-site individual wastewater treatment systems, here you see an ATU, an aerobic treatment unit. And you also see our incinerating toilet. So these last 2 examples are alternatives that have already been approved by the Department of Health to replace the need for a traditional septic tank. So instead of having your septic tank in advanced treatment or just a septic tank or just a cesspool, you can convert your cesspool to one of these aerobic treatment units or an incinerating toilet approved by the Department of Health. These ATUs, like here you see Fuji Clean System, are alternatives to septic tanks in the treatment train that provide more advanced treatment to wastewater. ATUs actually use chambers to add or remove oxygen and increase microorganisms that break down the organic matter and nutrients in the wastewater. ATUs do require electricity and service contracts. Incinerating toilets, like the Cinderella system shown here on the right, uses heat and combustion to break down human waste into water, carbon dioxide, and ash. The sterilized ash can then be disposed into a normal household trash. These toilets are ideal for remote locations and can replace a porta potty. Incineration toilets do have limits on frequency and require electricity or propane gas. A note on these alternative toilets, they only deal with waste from toilets and not from other wastewater sources like sinks and washing machines. So another means for technology like the Leapfrog gray water system would be a nice way to pair two different systems for your home. And that will take us to our financial resources. So VI is seeking funding resources to help homeowners with the process of converting these cesspools and their failing septic tanks. We're working with the EPA, the Department of Health, USDA's Rural Development Office, and private foundations to bring together federal, state, and philanthropic funding to help homeowners. So right here, you see that the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement, VI is a proud member of the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement, and we are happy to share that their loan programs can actually assist homeowners with financing eligible wastewater treatment projects. The Hawaiʻi Homestead Construction Renovation Loan Program ranges from about $35,000 to $500,000, and the home repair loans range from $10,000 to $35,000. Again, we'll share all of these slides and with you so that you can click and explore more. The Veteran Affairs Home Loan are provided by private lenders for veterans, and the VA guarantees a portion of the loan and accepts cesspool conversions for lending purposes in Hawaii. Next slide, please. Because cesspools can have a negative environmental impact, the United States Department of Agriculture recognizes this issue and offers financial assistance through grants and low-interest loans for these conversions. The Water and Waste Disposal Loan and Grant Program supports the development of water and waste disposal systems in rural areas, can provide funding for cesspool conversion projects, and typically this funding comes in the form of loans with low interest rates. So the area you see here shaded on the map is actually not considered a rural area or eligible for these programs. To be eligible for a Section 504 loan and or grant, you have to live in the rural area and meet certain eligibility requirements. Fortunately, Hilo Town is not eligible because it is not considered a rural area. But if you are interested in finding out more about this funding option, you can visit this link within this slide or reach out to us at VI and we can help you with your application process. We also have a fantastic website, www.vicleanwater.org, where we also have different web pages, and we have one that is specific to financing cesspool conversions for homeowners. Next slide, please. Last year, the Department of Health launched a cesspool pilot program to help assist property owners with converting their cesspools. The grant program had a total of $5 million that was allocated on a first-come, first-served basis, and it was in under 2 weeks of launching the program, all $5 million of those dollars were allocated to homeowners who were eager to convert their cesspools. So this overwhelming amount of interest in the grant program demonstrates the need for more financial assistance to help homeowners, and VI hopes that the legislature will fund the program again next year. Grants or forgivable loans are needed for those who are unable to repay loans or those of us who are ineligible for USDA rural loans. One opportunity could be to use the Clean Water State revolving funds for cesspool conversions through forgivable loans. So VI is actively working with the legislator to include more grants and loan programs. And that brings us to one other initiative I'd like to share with you. This is the COWAG initiative, the Closing America's Wastewater Access Gap initiative. The EPA and the USDA are offering technical assistance resources to help underserved communities identify, pursue federal funding opportunities to address their wastewater needs. So technical assistance providers can help communities identify and plan for wastewater solutions. They can provide education and outreach and help apply for funding. This is important for areas where there are limited staffing and resources. So the EPA and the USDA are partnering with technical assistance providers to provide on-the-ground support. This initiative is an opportunity to receive technical assistance to support communities to even just identify their challenges, develop plans, build capacity, and then develop application materials to access wastewater and water infrastructure funding. So this is an awesome opportunity to access the Clean Water State Revolving Funds and other federal funding opportunities that will support cesspool conversions and wastewater management solutions. So if you feel that your community might be interested in benefiting from this initiative, please contact VI for support to submit your application for this initiative. And that takes us to our Work for Water probe. Just kidding, one more thing. VI actually is, again, constantly looking for ways that we can help support homeowners. One of the ways that we do this is we work with the EPA on what's called a supplemental environmental project model. So we are actually currently working on projects on Hawaiʻi Island where we are managing 3 cesspool conversions, and we're offering funding for low and moderate income homeowners. We're actually offering 3 free cesspool conversions on Hawaiʻi Island right now. We hope to be offering to continue because this seems to be a really great way to help finance cesspool conversions for those who might not be able to afford it. So VI is hoping that we can offer more of these opportunities in the future. If you are interested in, participating in one of these types of projects that VI works on, please go to our website and you can sign up and share about your cesspool, and we will have your contact information, and then we can let you know. You can even sign up for our newsletter and find out about more opportunities like this in the future. Okay, now the Work for Water program. So we are excited to share with you VI's Work for Water program. We are expanding statewide in 2025. Our first program launched, it was a grant through the Department of Labor. It was an 8-week course. We offered career services and networking events and career expos to help introduce people and help those who are already introduced advance within the wastewater industry. So we are expanding. We'll be offering more courses on Hawaiʻi Island and expanding to Oahu and Kauai in 2025. So this program is a free program aimed at inspiring individuals to join the wastewater industry. The goal is to address the critical technician workforce shortage that will be needed to replace all 83,000 cesspools by 2050. Next slide, Courtney. Yeah, there's lots of program benefits for participating. We are really happy to share with you all. We have actually just completed all 3 of our cohorts, and we have graduated 97 total graduates from Maui, Molokai, and Hawaiʻi Island, and we're really proud of them and really just happy and excited to share this progress and the opportunity to expand this program and continue these efforts and this impact. So some of the benefits from the program is that you earn the skills and knowledge for employment and further education to get into the wastewater field. We offer an opportunity for networking with potential employers who are offering on-the-job training, employment opportunities, as well as apprenticeships and internships. Graduates from our program receive a wastewater specialist certificate. There's also a $500 stipend for successful course completion. And my favorite is the impact of our positive community impact by protecting Hawaii's natural resources. To celebrate the success of this program, we will be having a final Networking Career Expo event at Hawaiʻi Community College. We will also be hosting one at University of Hawaiʻi Maui College. If you or anyone you know is interested in hiring or getting to know any of our participants, we will be inviting all of our past participants and all of our past partners and collaborators to attend this Networking Career Expo event. This will be an opportunity to connect Work for Water graduates with potential employers. Also a really great opportunity I find every time we host one of these events. Our potential employers and collaborators always actually find ways that they can partner and collaborate themselves. So it's really just a great opportunity to come together with the shared mission of improving Hawaii's natural resources, protecting our watersheds and our water quality, and coming together for workforce development to help address these wastewater needs. So if you or anyone you know is interested, please sign up. You can sign up as an employer. If you'd like to learn more, reach out to us at VI. And yes, we are very excited to share that we have received funding from the EPA to expand our program and our outreach efforts. And so we are starting right this month. We are working on expanding our program, offering more classes on Hawaiʻi Island, Maui, Oahu, and Kauai, and to our Molokai participants as well. So yeah, Please sign up if you are interested or reach out to us if you'd like to learn more. You can go to viacleanwater.org/work4water. You can scan any of these. All of this will be shared with you. If you're interested in partnering with us as an employer, or if you're interested in taking the course or know somebody who might be, please reach out and let us know. And that takes us to our final poll. Before we move on to our Q&A session, we'd like to take one last brief poll. All of these questions will be multiple choice, similar to the pre-poll questions.
Okay, so who would like to start off with the first question? And do we have any questions in the chat that haven't been answered? We have one from David, says, what is the best way to determine how to select a contractor to perform a cesspool conversion? That's a very good question. We have a potty portal on our website, viacleanwater.org. And we can put that in the chat. That's a great way. It kind of walks you through and has a list of people who do these. And quite often, you know, so you can look through that list, and then word of mouth in your area, who's the best one. You just want to make sure that they are licensed to do this and have done others before. Anybody else want to talk about that?
I'll just add that we also dropped the link in the chat that has the approved engineer and contractor search tool. So you can click on that link, and that's approved by Hawaiʻi, and there are instructions included on the website, so how to search for a contractor.
Yeah. Other questions? And if you want to raise your hand and ask a question, feel free to do that. There's another question that says, how does untreated wastewater get released into Hilo Bay, Puhi Bay? Stephen, do you want to take that one?
Sure, I can talk a little bit about that. You know, there's Puhi Bay, and that area is so interesting because you have this whole community of the Keokakaha homestead, as well as other homes in Hilo all throughout there, on cesspools and septic. And so that's leaching into the groundwater and then coming out at the shoreline. And so we end up seeing high concentrations at the shoreline, primarily because of those cesspools and septic tanks that are there. The study that we just finished up was also looking at the sewage outfall, which is right offshore from there. And what we found is that the stuff coming out of the sewage outfall tended to be lower nutrient concentrations, lower bacteria concentrations than what we found at the shoreline, which is kind of our indicator that the sewage outfall is certainly having an impact, but what's coming in at the shoreline throughout there is sewage from these cesspools that are causing the biggest problem. There's also sewage overflows. I'm not sure if that's also what you were getting at, that in the area they do have problems with their pumps from time to time, and they have sewage overflows. There was one recently in Reeds Bay, and other ones over there by the pump station at Puhi Bay. So those do sometimes happen as well.
Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate that. And, you know, as was mentioned in the chat earlier, I don't think it's any secret to anyone on this call that, you know, the wastewater treatment plant in Hilo is severely deteriorated. We did a tour of it, and it was worse than we actually imagined. And so it is on the verge of collapse. And so that's something that I think all of us, especially you all who live in the area, need to be really mindful of. Is, you know, they're processing about 3 million gallons per day. And, you know, this is something that the EPA is there in negotiations with Hawaii County. And so they are working to to do updates and renovations. But in our minds, it's not working. It's not going fast enough because this is a really, it is in severe decline. And so I think there need to be backup measures in place to make sure that if there is some kind of, and there are frequent spills, as was mentioned in the chat, I think we need to just make sure that there are contingency and emergency responses that are ready to go if and when that happens. All right. Ted Bolin had asked,
He's got his hand raised, Stu.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Ted, jump in.
I was asking a general question. How does one tell how much it will cost to upgrade their cesspool and what financial assistance they are eligible for?
And I realize that we have other, authorities and speakers here. So if you all want to jump in, please feel free to do so. They might want to take Ted's question.
I realized that a lot of this was covered in some form with the financial stuff, but I'm kind of trying to bring it down to the individual homeowners level, because that's it's fine to hear that there are programs, but if I'm making a decision about upgrading my cesspool, I want to know what it's going to cost me and what the best route is to get my cesspool upgraded in terms of technologies, et cetera.
Yeah. Alex, do you want to take a stab at that? No worries if not.
No, the costs of, what we're seeing, anywhere from $25,000 to $45,000, depending on its location. I deal primarily with parcels that are right at or along the shoreline. And so we often push to have new homeowners, new development install those what did you call them, the ATU, the aerobic individual wastewater systems, which can be a little more pricey, but cost, it ranges really depending on the developer and the location. As far as funding is concerned, yeah, I think you guys really outlined the funding opportunities. The county doesn't really have anything quite yet. Speaking to the wastewater treatment plant in Hilo, I too have taken a tour down there, and one good thing is that back in the day, the treatment plant was designed to accommodate double the capacity it handles right now, but needs a complete overhaul, which runs in the area of 150 to $200 million. And so, because funding is limited and because the price tag is so high, that is one of the issues that's holding up that upgrade. But as far as folks moving towards upgrading their cesspools, there are a lot of challenges, and not at least being the funding, but it seems to me that you guys are really working towards providing more outlets for that, which is really good. And it would be helpful if citizens would pressure the county to get more involved, the county government, which we've kind of been slacking on that, relying on the state, relying on other agencies to deal with that, when in fact I'm constantly permitting new development with new individual wastewater systems in areas that most likely do not have the sand necessary to remove some of the effluent before it enters the water. Some of the lots are very, very small. A majority of them are very, very small, so that limits the location of the septic system to be very close, in some instances within 45 to 50 feet of the shoreline. And that's troubling. And then the third thing for HPP, I know the the data was taken about 10 years ago, but we've seen a significant increase in the number of drill wells, so personal wells for homeowners, that we need to really be aware of. And that number, I bet, has increased significantly since that study was done, specifically HPP, which has exploded in the number of people moving there. But that's I know that's a lot, but hopefully that kind of answers a little bit of your question.
Yes, thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate that input. And, you know, HPP is one of those places that, as Gabby mentioned, where we could use decentralized systems, where, you know, there's so many homes in that area that really that does, you know, beg for a system to take care of that area. And for the Hilo wastewater treatment plant, there are companies that have emergency, like their trailers basically, and they have you know, full-fledged MBR systems that do the highest level cleaning, and you can lease them and they can have in backup. So even while they're building or renovating the plant, they should have some of these that if there's a breakdown, that immediately can be you know, directed to these to produce clean water, instead of waiting for, you know, a massive spill.
Yeah, and people should, you know, with our new mayor, you know, take this opportunity. The new mayor, you know, with each new administration, there's a new focus, and what this mayor's focus seems to be not only safety, health and safety, but recreation and opportunities at the shoreline and other areas. So it would behoove him to make this a priority, but the citizens need to you know, contact him and let him know that this is a priority. You know, oftentimes I can scream and yell and show data all day, you know, as a senior planner for the county, but it's the citizens who really make the biggest impact on our elected officials and how and what they focus on.
That's a great point. Even just if a number of people on this call just reached out to their representatives, you know, county council members, the mayor's office, it would make a huge difference that they're hearing from people that this is a priority. They don't want something really bad to happen, like at the treatment plant, or be, you know, proactive and start looking for better systems and more affordable options. So as we're wrapping up, any final questions?
I see that Kehao has their hand raised.
Yeah.
Kehao?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for everyone for providing so much good information. I just had a question on the costs. When we're talking about, you know, it ranges, you know, up on upwards of 45,000. Is that to convert to a septic, or is that to convert to the ATU style or any of the other alternative methods that you're talking about? Or is it, you know, the just basic from cesspool to septic?
Yeah, my data is limited on, you know, pricing. It's not I don't often get pricing, but the high cost, the high range definitely is for the aerobic systems. And that's to convert or to build a new one. The conversion, I think, is a little less, but again, my data is limited on the valuation of conversion. I see a lot more new development, so my numbers may be skewed towards new systems. In that case, that could be the number could be different. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have that data, but it's something I can look into. I'll start looking into that.
Yeah, and I just also think about, you know, with possible county council, you know, passing things where it's even better than just septic. They have, you know, new development has to be ATU or better, or, you know, something like that. And then, you know, just with the on-site alternatives, you know, that sand filtration system, I had a question of where sand would come from. I know this island doesn't have a lot of sand, and, you know, mentioning you know, Chris, I think in the chat, you know, just a lot of rock and lava tubes. And I just think of like importing sand from somewhere else
is not really the best thing to bring in. You know, we kind of want to work within what we have. And it also goes to, you know, someone else's question of what did Hawaiians Kanaka Maoli do in years before. And I just wonder if like that incinerating burning might have been that type of option, you know, if that can be like a cheaper alternative route versus like a full on changeover from to a ATU. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but just thinking through possible solutions. Thank
Yeah,
you.
mahalo kia. And you know, you put in something earlier that we're also exploring, which are nature-based systems, which, you know, nature kind of always knows best, and indigenous cultures have been dealing with some of these issues. So, you know, we've introduced at least one nature-based system into Hawaii, and we're trying to, well, actually, we've done two systems that don't require electricity and do the denitrification that you're mentioning, so it doesn't harm the reefs. And so that's super important for us, because protecting our coral reefs is, you know, not only important environmentally, in public health wise, but for our fisheries, for recreation, for our economy, and just basic survival and protection against storms. And we have a lot of questions. You guys are really rallying at the very end when we're beyond time. So we're not going to be able to get to all of them. But we can follow up, and we ask you to reach out to us. There are places that have, you know, especially on the Big Island, that have that hard rock underneath, especially in Hawaii Paradise Park. We did a cesspool conversion for a veteran there and just had to hammer through that rock. So we're trying to come up with alternatives where we retrofit the cesspool, because you've already got this hole in the ground, and try to do treatment before and use that as a seepage pit. So we're trying to bring all kinds of reforms to bring down the cost. And there are quarries, and this is where we could use your help. There are quarries on the Big Island that can provide the kind of sand we need, but they don't understand the demand yet. They're kind of like, oh, we haven't been contacted a lot by that. So that's something where if we could get the county and others and representatives saying, hey, we need this kind of sand to do better systems, they can produce it. And so, yeah, we just need to continue working with the quarries like Hawaii Concrete to make sure that they have that available for contractors and engineers. And I'm sorry, I know we have a lot to do, but we really want to be respectful and but please do follow up with us. If you email us at info@ycleanwater.org, we'll put that in the chat. We will follow up. And then, as Gabby and the others said, we will be sending out the slideshow, the recording, and helpful links to all of you for this. And really want to thank you for taking the time. It is concerned citizens like you that make a difference, and that are going to help protect our environment and our water quality. So we are deeply indebted to you all and to our speakers, of course. We're very lucky to work with some of the top researchers in the state. So we really want to thank Bob and Alex. We appreciate you joining, and Rep. Kapela, who had to move on, and of course Stephen Colbert, who's always been there with us, and Nick and so many others of you who are leaders on this issue. So we appreciate you coming. We hope you have a good night, and we look forward to staying in touch. We hope you'll stay in touch with us. Aloha.
Thank you.
Question, Stuart.
Yes.
How do we get a meeting with the mayor?
Yes. That is a good question. We need to make that happen.
Yeah.
Alex, can we